Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
Oh, wow.
Wow, this is not just good for coffee, but it's also great for vodka. So,
Oh,
keep
well,
that
here,
handy.
I understand there was a Dunkin' fund up there. So,
Yeah, you got the mango special there.
I got the mango special, the mango and green tea special, keeping me going. I'm glad you're here. I was worried about you up there after a while. You
Yeah.
had some interesting moments the last 2 days in Canton.
Yeah, it's an
yeah,
interesting place, no doubt about that.
I've been tweeting about them, Xing about them, posting about them, about your, get off the sidewalk. You can't walk on the sidewalk 6 times. Who
I know.
decided that?
When I heard it again, I had to bite my tongue to keep from answering. And this is out in front of the courthouse for those folks who weren't part of the fun earlier today. And the trooper said, don't come back here again. You've been back and forth 5 times. And of course, I wanted to say, well, what happens if I come back for number 6? What happens then?
Well, we hire you a lawyer in Massachusetts, and maybe we'll get our press pass. I mean, really, that's the most amazing thing. This is a public sidewalk. It says the public sidewalks to remain open. You're not wearing a pin. You're not advertising for anybody. You're going from like the bagel shop in the corner, at one point over to where the supporters for Karen Reed are in front of the courthouse to see what's happening, walking back around. And they're telling you can't do that more than 5 times.
No, I definitely was annoying them for some reason. But, I don't want to be the story. I'm just there to report on what's happening. So,
you're sort of the story in the sense that now everybody, all these trolls, because now that we've complained about this, no, we didn't even complain. We just said, yeah, hey, look, is this intimidation? Because if it can happen to you, and it's going to run off your back, it can happen to anybody who has a right to walk those sidewalks back and forth.
Yeah,
to go to the bagel shop, to go to the supporters, the bagel shop to supporters,
to get exercise, whatever.
whatever. I mean, there was no problem. You saw a former colleague from Long Crime who was with one of the shows walk up there, and no problem. They didn't say anything to her.
She's with Inside Edition, and they have actual press passes. So.
Yeah, but still, this was the public sidewalk. They weren't stopping the public from walking as long as they walked excessive walking.
No excessive walking.
Where is that? Let me see.
They were looking out for my health. Don't go back and forth too many times. You're kind of old.
Do I have to judge
there is
way?
one time where they can play crossing guard, and remember that's where that happened is exactly where the prospective jurors come down out of the registry, go across the street, and then into the courthouse. So they should act like crossing guards at that point.
Right. But I don't see the amount of times you can walk on the roadway, sidewalks, and businesses will remain open to members of the public as usual. And the Dedham Police Office, and also the court order attached to this, I don't see it says open as usual, except that you can't walk it past more than 5 times.
That's right.
I don't see that.
That may change. That may change. They have rules,
my goodness gracious, Michael. Yeah, you were almost the story. People were actually worried about you, because I know you went to a lot of different places. We'll have a story tomorrow night. What else? What else has been happening to you that we haven't posted on X, Twitter?
Nothing happened to me, but what I missed, and I noticed I did some work in my office here. I moved some stuff around, and the lighting is all weird now. It's like something is like I'm in shadows or something. I'll figure that out later. But I didn't get a chance.
We didn't even know you were coming back. We didn't even know. We're happy you were coming back because that means that you got everything you needed for us for our show tomorrow night.
Got something.
And you were there 2 days.
So when I was, wrapping up from the site, and Dina dropped in, with the bulletin that the report, the audit had been dropped, that 200-page report. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to read that. It's one thing my mom told me: don't read and drive.
Don't read and drive. Well, I have. I've been posting about it for Justice Serve TV.
Oh, good.
But the only problem is, then I looked at my own email day, and my poor clients. I'm like, okay, I'll be with you tomorrow. I'll be there. I had like 100 emails I hadn't answered about my own stuff. I was so consumed with making sure you were okay, and telling everybody who came to watch us we were on the air for like 5 hours. We thought we'd stream for like an hour, maybe, and there was 5 hours. So let me tell you about it.
Let me thank Tracy Walker for gifting 10 Justice Serve TV memberships. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Oh, that's truly, and we have some new members again. Donnie, not
Donnie, not
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg, I
Yeah,
remember.
you showed us
Yeah.
this morning, and thank you again. And Gaynor Rance, new member, thank you again. And Ann McAuliffe, new member, thank you again. I'm glad you're here to help us walk through. So I have been Xing about it. Let me go. Let me go to both the just. Let me go to Justice.
Be rude. Here's why.
Yeah, or I can go.
I skipped to the recommendations just so I get a sense of what the thing was about, because a lot of it is CYA, interagency type. How do we avoid blaming them? But the recommendations were very interesting. I just want to talk about one of them. Okay,
the first one, the first recommendation, right off the top, the audit team from it's called, and I have their Twitter address. Okay. And if I could find their Twitter address, that would be very helpful for me.
While you're looking at the Twitter address, I'll do my bullet point, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, because like I said, I haven't had a chance to read this. Last night, remember, we were talking about, I called them the Keystone Cops, because we were talking about how Easter, the expert in police procedure, the former FBI guy, was not going to be allowed to testify, right? So that became a discussion about, well, if lay people can understand how horribly the police didn't investigate, botched the investigation, then do you need an expert? That's what Judge Cagnoni was saying. You don't need an expert because lay people can figure this out. So I went on to say that not only were they like Keystone Cops, I said, why don't they have in every squad car just a little mini CSI kit? Not like what you'd get from the big van, right?
Right. You said that.
Why doesn't everybody have one of those? I said it just so Mickey Mouse, and I think we cut and posted that as a separate thing. Look at recommendation number 2. All sergeant and patrol vehicles should have a full crime scene kit, including evidence collection bags, sealing equipment, and digital cameras. I mean, I'm no genius, but it's that obvious. And now it's recommendation number 2. At the bottom there, it says Chief Rafferty is aware of this recommendation and is in the process of purchasing additional digital cameras for officers. So anyway, that's all I got to say about this report.
It's even no, it's perfect for that. You said that, and it's a department phones with digital cameras should be placed in patrol cars for officers to document crime scenes. Not to take pictures themselves. The audit team identified that officers and detectives use personal phones to photograph crime scenes. Well, I think they do a lot of that in many jurisdictions, because they don't want to have what's on the officer issued cell phone. In many jurisdictions go in discovery, and you find that it's try to get away around it, right? But the patrol, so you need a policy to say all communications have to go through the cell phone of the police department that they're going to give you, not your personal cell phone. As a matter of fact, you just lock your personal cell phone up when you come. So that's really interesting. So the report is from something called 5 Stones Intelligence. They're at 5S Intelligence. Okay, 5 Stones Intelligence. But the first thing they address right off the bat is the John O'Keefe crime scene. I don't know if we had that. It's the audit team. It's right up front.
I've got the whole document. I just looked. Oh, let me show you this too. I was going to try and highlight just a couple of things. So watch what happens when. So I've highlighted this in blue. You would always highlight it, and then you go up to the top, right? Let me see if I can get my cursor up there now that I'm all over the place. And you go up to the top, and you drop it down, and you want to highlight it, right? Watch what happens. This is a PDF that's been released to the public.
I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it says you have to have a password to highlight the freaking text.
Right.
I'm not trying to change anything.
Right. Not only that, if you go to the top and you just want to copy, it's the audit of the Canton Police Department, it won't let you copy the words. It copies the website. Okay. Just so you know.
It's the weirdest PDF I've ever seen.
Yeah. Gifted 50, just to mention again, 50 Justice Serve TV memberships. Thank you very much, Tracy Walker. That's so fabulous.
That's amazing. Yes.
So that is. So if you do that, so it's really a strange PDF because you can't even copy the words, because I wanted to copy the words of exactly what it was. So when I went to put it into our X account, it wouldn't say something else. So instead I had to sit there and my typing.
That's scary. This is the whole document. If you've got points you want to go to, I can scroll to that.
Yeah, I want it's the observations and findings pretty much right off the top of the report. I don't have the printed report right
Yeah.
with me.
Well, I've got
There you
that
go.
up right now. Observations
on.
and findings.
Oh no, keep going. It's about John O'Keefe. It's about John O'Keefe.
Ah, okay.
All
So do
right,
you know if it's
go
past the
upwards. No,
recommendations or it's before that?
way up. It's way up at
Okay.
the beginning of
Okay.
the document. It's like
Okay. Let me shrink this a little
everyone
bit. There
copied
we
it.
go.
And while you're doing that, let me post this. This was a wicked psyched. I have I've had jury service there. They walk down the sidewalk from the district court and cross the street to Superior. Understand why they had to move it out for jury selection, in my opinion. Yeah, that is fine. The issue was that the sidewalk that is public, that everyone could walk about and then cross. They limited Michael Bryan to
Limiting
say you
your
can't walk
crossings.
past 5, right?
Yeah.
Limiting your crossings, and that was the issue.
I was flattered that he noticed how many times that I walked back and
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, maybe he was interested in you. Did you tell Lisa?
forth.
Yeah. So thank
Okay.
you. A lot of 60 Justice Serve TV
Oh my
memberships. And by
gosh.
the way, I haven't posted the link to this morning's show yet because, quite frankly, I haven't had time.
Yeah. I understand.
So that people get ready for tomorrow because it is 5 hours. All right. So do you think you have it up there?
So I'm at page 7, which one of many pages that has observations.
Keep going up.
I'm just looking at some of the stuff as I scroll by, and that one said something
go
like
up,
they have above average morale. Do you know that? They have
Yeah.
above average morale.
Yes, I saw that. They have above that. Start with the top of the document, then you can go
It's
down
the very
to find
top.
it
Okay.
there.
Let me. I don't.
Right there. Now keep going down. You're going to find it really quickly now. Keep
Okay. I'm just
scrolling.
trying not to give anybody, whiplash or anything here.
You won't do that. You won't give anyone whiplash. Stephanie, while you're doing that, you'll see in a second, gifted 5 Justice Serve TV memberships. So we have 5 more. Christina, Maria, we're going to talk about this specific question. Can the defense use the results of the audit trial? We're going to talk about that. So just hold that question. Keep going down. Keep going down.
Okay.
A little more.
All right. There's
And
Brian Pillay.
Yeah. Keep going.
Unfortunately,
Let's
his name
go.
is torn.
All right. Go past the table of contents.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let's go past the table of contents. All
Okay,
right.
another pretty picture.
Another beautiful picture. Executive summary. Now let's go down. Keep going.
I'm looking for another heading.
You're gonna see. You're gonna keep going. Review,
Okay, more.
scope, and methodology. Yeah, even more.
More evidence.
More.
Crime scene
Evidence and
protocols.
crime scene protocol.
There we are.
Can you just scroll like a half an inch down?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you want the observation?
No, I don't want that. I just want to be able to see that paragraph.
Okay.
During the examination. Okay. All right. This is like the first thing they're discussing. It really is. I mean, and that's why everyone was posting it, because they hit it right up. And you know what? It was interesting. You don't need a weatherman to tell you which way the wind blows, right? You know.
I've heard that.
And we talked about Bob Dylan with regard to that. No, you can't have a crime scene expert to tell you. But 5 stones got paid, I'm sure, a pretty penny to be able to review procedures and tell us what was right and what was wrong. Something that the public, I guess, couldn't do. So here it says, John O'Keefe, during the examination, the audit team assessed the response and crime scene procedures carried out by Canton PD officers on January 29, 2022, involving the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in the early morning hours. These actions were compared against existing policies, regulations, and requirements to determine compliance. The review of this major incident encompassed crime scene investigations, police reports, evidence collection, crime scene security, interviews, and evidence documentation. Policy violations were identified by the expert, by this expert team, right? And detailed both below and in the final report. So what were those observations? But it just seems to me it's so ridiculous that Judge Beverly Cannoni says this is in the ken of the jury, right? You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. But here you have all of these policies that were paid $200,000.
Yeah, I mean, I trust Scott, but I would have to independently verify that. Obviously, they made a ton of money on it.
Yeah, Scott, very good. Observations and findings. Hi, Scott. By the way, thank you for taking care of our Michael Bryan today, so he didn't get arrested.
Yeah, that's right. Good thing Scott was with me. Who knows what would happen? The first responding officers should have photographed
That's my comment. Boston police officer John O'Keefe at the location of where he was found before fire rescue moved him to the rescue. Duh. Okay. All right. I assume that's one of the things that Alan Jackson would have gone into with regard to his expert. All interviews of critical witnesses, including Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts, should have been conducted at Canton PD on January 29th, 2022, after John O'Keefe was transported to the hospital. Consensual recorded witness interviews should have been conducted. The Massachusetts State Police, along with Canton PD, should have maintained a police presence at 34 Fairview Road, pending the secondary search conducted by MSP crime scene units. All in capital letters. Can we see that? All in caps. It's like me when I was typing in caps when I spilled my coffee into my keyboard today, and I had to try to get it out. All, not some, not maybe just a little bit, not half. All video footage files maintained on Canton PD's computer system of Karen Reed's Lexus SUV while it was housed at Canton PD from January 29th through February 2nd, 2022, should have been requested and turned over early in the Karen Reed case to lead investigators for any action as deemed appropriate. Okay. Wow.
But other than that, it was perfect.
Other than that, the investigation was perfect. And then
can I respond to one of these?
Yes.
Because they're all kind of linked, because they all say you did a shit job. As to the first one about what should, as you know, is one of those guilt words. You should do this, you should do that, you should do this. So they've been found guilty of some pretty sloppy work here, according to these observations and findings. You have to ask yourself, when you see this list, are they just that incompetent, or was there something more nefarious, more master plan involved here? Right, I mean, that's really that's what you got to come down to.
Because so if you go with Judge Beverly Cannoni's view that every layperson know this was wrong, then something was wrong, because then every police officer should have known how to at least put yellow crime scene tape or put cars out to protect the scene they're around, take recorded statements, get consents, interview witnesses. So you have that. But if you go with the fact that she denied, the fact that you need the expert, maybe you don't need all this. Maybe you just need you need the $200,000 report. By the way, Nosy Rosie says the citizens of Canton had to fight really hard for this minimal report. The committee fought them till the end and wouldn't budge on any funds. Very interesting.
You know what's going to happen now, right? There's
now
the motion in limine. The motion in limine.
Here we go.
Keep all of this out.
And that's what Christina Maria said. I said, we're going to talk about this tonight. Can the defense use the results of the order and trial? I see that motion limine. I would imagine that we're going to wake up to it tomorrow morning, right?
I think it was all but signed before this came out. Yeah.
Right. And then the question is that we're going to have a motion for Alan Jackson to be able to cross-examine and use this. And the judge may say, well, no, you can't use this. It's not a real true investigation. It's like when the hospital does something wrong, they get to keep in secret what they've done wrong. But you know what? If I'm Alan Jackson, what do I get up there and say? I hold this report without showing and say, did first responding officers photograph police John O'Keefe at the blah blah blah? Okay, should they have? If somebody says no, excuse me, I would like to go further and just hold it and ask the question in terms of what's right in here. And what do they say as observations and findings about this? Oh, but this is going to crack you up. The Canton PD detectives need advanced training in crime scene investigations. The Canton
advanced training. I think they need remedial training. I think they need kindergarten level training.
Yeah, they need increased training budget approved by the town. That means your taxes are going to go up, so they're going to try to pit the citizens against doing this.
Where are you now? Let me find the right spot. Where are you?
Oh, just observations and findings, which goes right.
Another set of them. Okay,
it's right there. It's right under this. I'm going with the simple first. The Canton PD needs an increased budget, right? The civil service standards place a limitation on who can be hired by the town of Canton. That doesn't mean they can't be trained. I mean, what are you talking about? A lot of people have civil service. Civil service is great. My father was a civil service employee. He was fabulous, Portable radios and their inability to provide complete coverage is problematic.
Okay, hold on. Let me interrupt you because there's tons of observation and finding segments. Now, I don't want to be showing one that's
Just the one,
different than you're talking
under.
about.
Maybe this is the. Maybe I don't have the one under. Maybe I
There
have
are
the final
so
one.
many.
There's so many. So you don't even have to find this one. Just let me just give you
Okay.
this.
I just don't want the audience to
Okay.
be looking and trying to read this, and it's different from what you're going over.
The Canton PD officers are not issued departmental cell phones. I mean, this is an observation. Yeah, but the question is, I bet you they don't want to. I bet you they don't want to be issued department cell phones because then they can keep whatever they have kind of secret. They can delete it. They can say their cell phone doesn't have to be turned over. Their cell phone is not part of investigation. Their cell phone is not part of official government item. I mean, you know, so that goes back to your team. Oh my gosh. Mary Romain says, Canton audit team got kicked out of audit meeting. It was nasty with the select board. Ooh, wow.
And who's on the select board? Anybody?
Let's see.
Anybody?
Okay, come on, chat. Who's on the select board? Come on, chat. You can do it.
Yeah, I think that's almost a rhetorical question.
No, come on, Chad. You can do it. Who's on the select board?
You're going to make somebody actually throw that in there. I see Serene. Serene says Chrissy Albert.
Yeah.
And so does Nosy. Yeah.
So that's on the select board. So maybe that's why there is a problem here. So they needed to do this, but they didn't want some of these. I have other things to talk about here, but I think that the motion to eliminate is coming. And you know what? I think the judge is going to grant it. I think she's going to grant it.
You think she'll, as they say, allow it, which is the weirdest word to use?
Yeah, allow something not to happen. That she's
yes, exactly.
Not to happen. She's gonna, even though this is a government report, it should, as a government report, it should go in. Although there was something at the end that was helpful to them. I forget what it was right now because there was so much that was unhelpful. There was one line I did posted. It was helpful to them. So I don't know. That their evidence, that they showed the compliance with all their evidence protection protocols. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that was somewhere in there, and I was like, "What? The Sally port? That's compliance with evidence protection protocols? Maybe because it was in the Sally port and not, it wasn't the marijuana brought to the police station. Let me check it under case number, whatever.
Look at this, and I'm just scrolling through because if we hit these bullet points, I'm sure we'll learn something from all of these observations and findings. This one is on, for those who are going to be looking at this in some detail, this is on page 6. The Canton PD had 3 internal affairs investigations in the past year as the result of police officer dispatch failures.
Ooh.
They have only 1 part-time civilian employee, no civilian dispatchers. So even dispatchers are staff, cops.
Yeah, but they knew that there was something that happened at 34th Fairview. So that's not the cause and effect of.
No, this is just a habit, a pattern of mismanagement, is what it is.
Yeah. Now, wait. Afton asks as a follow up to this question. Now, I don't know. I think I just deleted it again. Somebody's got to help me go find Afton's question. All right, I think I touched on it, and for some reason, when I touched on it, it was like the report. It just wouldn't let me copy it. All right, so let me see if I can do this. Bridget, has Linda ever seen a worse investigation than the trial she's been in on? Well, there's been some pretty bad ones, okay? We've seen some pretty bad ones, but usually it may be localized. It may be to the forensic unit that's pretty bad, right? It may be to this unit. This is everything. That's the problem I have with this. I mean, how badly can you be trained, right?
Look at this. I'm just highlighting it, but I can't highlight it forever. It says, a gathering of individuals supporting the Free Karen Read movement regularly protest outside the Canton PD. There have been numerous accounts of officers encountering harassment, both in person and online, including through emails, voicemails, social media platforms, and YouTube. Members of the audit team have received emails and text messages prompting team members to investigate allegations and alleged cover-ups by police. Okay.
Well, what I received a lot of emails and stuff today. Justice Serve TV received a lot of stuff because as soon as you post on a side, some other side, today the trolls were out, right? The trolls were out. And you can't discuss anything fairly because the trolls were out. So they thought for some reason you're a protester and you should have been arrested. because they're trained to be trolls. Okay, but you have a lot of concerned citizens that are emailing and saying, look, this is a problem here. Look at this. You may not get this unless we tell you, right? Okay, so Afton, here we go. Wait, are reports evidence, or would the defense have to call the auditors? They may not be allowed to use. Defense
Yeah, they may not be allowed to do either. Yeah, if they were allowed to use this report for impeachment, less likely they'd have to get. They're not going to be able to, but let's follow this theory through as a class exercise.
Well, let's say direct evidence. Let's follow it as a
okay. Then they'd have to have the foundation for these observations. They'd have to have the custodian of the records. They'd have to probably get whomever documented. You know, there had to be certain identified individuals who put this together. They don't just throw it all in the computer and AI spits it out.
At this organization. And I would argue that it's a government report, but I know they're going to say it's not a government report because it's hired by a contractual. It's a private company that was hired contractually.
Yeah.
So it didn't come from the government.
On page 7, it's just one observation. The Canton PD has above average morale as it relates to camaraderie and faith in the department. That makes it sound like a good old boys network. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like, right? The good old person's network, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I cracked up with crime scenes, but they also have recommendations. All interviews of witnesses should be conducted at Canton PD whenever possible. These interviews should be recorded and conducted as soon as possible after an event. That's right above your crime scene, right? Rewrite the Canton PD police and procedures related to utilization and authorization of personal phones to photograph or video crime scenes. Only department issue phones, right? It's some of this stuff is just easy, but the chief of police has to review the death investigation reports to ensure completeness, accuracy, and exhaustion of all investigative avenues. And here's a note for us for tomorrow night's show. Okay, here's a note. I didn't see it earlier. Note. It's under recommendation. No.
Where's your note? Where is it?
It's under recommendation 6 in the recommendation that you mentioned about the patrol kits, the patrol cars having full crime scenes. Okay.
And it is.
And the note. And by the way, that's the note is in bold. It says note in bold, then it goes back to regular text. A Canton PD detective wrote that Sandra Birchmore died of a suicide in the initial report. It was later determined that she had been killed by strangulation. All right.
An interesting observation to put in this report.
I think that we need to cut this out, and we need to have this for tomorrow night when we run our Sandra Birchmore special episode. We'll do a little Karen Reed, and it'll morph into Sandra Birchmore, because I had not seen that, and I'm not sure if I saw anything else regarding Sandra Birchmore in this Canton PD. Now, who would have been that Canton PD police officer, police detective? If I recall,
Fanning?
If I recall, Proctor. Well, that's true. It could be Fanning. But Proctor was also involved with Birchmore. So that's what he was also one of that's how the names we saw that people were kind of upset about. So who could it be? Was it, which one? It says Kevin and Fanning. Was it Proctor at all, since he was involved? Did he have a report too? Was it Lang? Wow. So, by the way, we tried the medical examiner's office. We're going to try them tomorrow to ask the medical examiner who did the report saying suicide to come on our show. If she doesn't answer, we will ask the head who issued the statement today that said they're not going to move, and I think that was the head of the office, unless they get more information, to come on our show, because we're going to be doing a show totally on Sandra Birchmore tomorrow, and we have some footage you won't want to miss. That's all I'll say.
So this is, it's interesting. The observations they make it sound like chaos. The audit team reveals that officers do not feel they have the support of Canton town officials. Okay, that's not good. Canton PD officers' morale as it relates to the town is low. And they also found that town meetings in the town of Canton, and we've shared at least one of them, devolve and become contentious and unproductive. They're a mess.
Right.
And
Right.
so, they're not blaming anybody at this point. They're just stating, here's what we've observed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Michael, I didn't tell you the page I was referring to because I was so busy today that I actually printed out just the pages I was using. And interestingly enough, when you do that, you don't get a page
You don't get
number.
numbers.
You
And
don't get
there
a
are,
page
is this really
number.
200 pages long, this thing?
Yeah, 206 or
Okay.
208 or something when I went to print it. It depends on the printer. Sometimes you get a little extra on your own printer and all. So we will find that page. Somebody said it's about page 80. It's
Okay.
after, maybe if you have it or if Disney has or whatever, you can take a look at it.
I mean, I
And
got
maybe
the whole document.
and I guess we're gonna have to do a search to see if there's other Birchmore references, because I was really looking for O'Keefe. I really wasn't looking for Birchmore in this.
I'm not sure it'll let me
and
do that.
I'm not sure other. There's an entire section on Birchmore. Okay, it says Discworld Edge Witch. The report on Birchmore. Karen Reed as well. Reed. We kind of picked up. I kind of picked up because as we were trying to rush this to read this report, and we're gonna have more on that and all. But okay, so class, we need you to go over this and give us your high points. Okay.
So
About,
this looks like
75
one
or
of
after.
them that you read about. They need to rewrite the Canton PD policy about the use of personal phones.
Right.
All policies should be changed to mandate the utilization of only department issued owned phones to photograph crime scenes, which of course makes perfect sense. Personal phones should be strictly prohibited. I mean that's just common sense,
Yeah, that's
This
not what
it's
happened.
like Mayberry, it's like Barney Fife.
Yeah. Now Scott McGinnis says Proctor was not involved, but I did see something about Proctor crossover when they were talking about a possible federal investigation, that the names kind of popped up from being in Canton. Now I don't know what way it popped up. It may have just said that there was Canton police officers involved in one and all, and they made problems in the other, Scott. So yeah, let's take let me know about that. Let's look about that. Because I remember seeing that, but since I don't have anything else, I don't know anything else. I don't know anything else, but I thought his name was one of the ones that popped up at some point. It may have been tangentially. Fanning was the one that popped up big time in terms of the news media reports, that he was the one who, with the medical examiner, said it was suicide. So
this is the first time I've seen a lot of this, so I'm just kind of
yeah,
through it.
yeah. You were
edification.
you were a little busy, and then you had to rush and drive back to get here.
I wish I had an audio book. That would have been perfect.
Yeah,
it's not out yet.
not
on Audible yet.
They couldn't give you an audio book. You can't even you need a password, because they think you're going to change it and put a new copy up.
Yeah, I understand you can't change the text. I get it, but highlighting, come on. I mean, a PDF, you can't change those things, but highlighting, what is the deal?
So, can you copy the whole report and put it into a Word document?
I bet you there's software that will allow that. Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah. So, but with this, as somebody points out, how can you say that people understand police investigations? If Canton had to play for this, about police procedures, because they talk about specifically how police procedures are followed or aren't followed, and that just in the John O'Keefe, again, let me repeat, the review of these actions were compared against existing policy, regulations, and requirements to determine compliance. The review of this incident encompassed crime scene investigations, police reports, evidence collection, crime scene security, interviews, and evidence documentation. Policy violations were identified and are detailed both below and in the final report. So they're talking about policy violations. That's exactly why the defense wanted to bring an expert to explain how you conduct a good investigation and what was lacking here in the John O'Keefe death investigation. And I'm not going to say murder. I'm not going to say homicide. I'm saying death, because it's a death investigation, right? You don't draw a conclusion. You start with what you're going to do, and then you see where the evidence leads you and takes you. So, I don't get it, Michael.
I'm just looking at some of these stats. In 2024, they had 9,000 dispatch entries, 8,900 of which were police actions, almost all of them. 310 arrests out of nearly 9,000 dispatches. I guess that's a good thing.
Who knows?
37 resulting in use of force incidents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 37 resulted in use of force incidents.
At
Oh,
least
wow.
reported.
Wow. And does it say how many of the officers were involved in that?
No, but it does have staffing information here. Like on the overnight shift when this took place, they have 4 patrol officers and a sergeant. That's what they've got. That's the whole crew. For the overnight hours, which are generally the busiest, except when you got a small town like this, it's not usually all that busy.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't sound like a lot of bodies.
Right. Right. What else you seeing that because you are you're just looking at this yourself. You're looking at it.
It looks pretty comprehensive, I'll tell you that, just at least in the structure and the subcategories. And, it looks like they may have gotten their money's worth.
Yeah. By the way, you can't convert it to a Word either. To convert it to a Word document, you have to have a password. It is
Yes.
password.
Well, I guarantee you there's some software out there that'll do it for you. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
It may be illegal, but it's out there.
Well, I don't see why converting something to something that you want to highlight to use it should be improper. I mean,
as long as you aren't changing it and then representing it to somebody as what it was originally, and that's fraud. Just highlighting. I mean, come on.
Give us a break. It's just highlighting, right? Okay. Michael's having a good time here.
So if you got other high points, let me know.
The other thing I had was, hold on a second. The crime scene reports you look at, the chief of investigations. They have a special section on hit and run investigations, which is kind of interesting. Not that we're going to go there. I don't think we should go there, but they may want to try to go there, that they did everything. They didn't do everything, even under that. Okay. Even if they thought this was a hit and run, this was a car hit, they didn't do everything even under that. Okay.
Well, Dirty Bev has a suggestion. I'm sure Fanning and Crawford could help you convert it. What are you saying?
Oh my gosh, that's actually kind of funny, Michael. That's
funny,
really
sad. Yes,
it's funny, sad. Yeah. So so what did you all see? Did you all read this report? It's very difficult. I'll tell you what. If it's very difficult in one sense to follow, even though it has a long table of contents, because the recommendations are under each specific area, right? And then they have to be finalized, but they come under each specific area, and some of these areas overlap in terms of what they should do, which is why you have some observations and findings under the John O'Keefe investigation. Then you have a few other recommendations, and then you get to the final report. That's like, oh, there's a final report section. There's I don't know if you can find that.
It's quickly. The final part.
It's the final part. Okay.
I'm looking for a
the final part. If you go to the table of contents.
Well, let's just see. If it's final, it wouldn't be at the end.
It should be at the end. But the way they did this was really kind of strange, right?
Yeah, there's page 198.
There you go. It's like 206, so it should be final report. I'm going to try to go on there with you.
Rebuild community trust. Good luck with that.
Yeah, rebuild community trust. It's interesting with the lack of community trust. There's such a good old boy network that they feel so that their morale is good. What does that tell
internally you? It's very good. And they finished with a lovely picture of 2 units side by side, units that don't have CSI boxes.
Units that don't have CSI boxes. They have a section dealing with citizens' complaint processes. I'm sure the citizens were happy about that. So, they do have a fun. You're going to get there. Section 12 is recommended improvements. Okay.
Yeah, I'm basically scrolling backwards from the very end. So
okay.
These are all recommendations of some sort under some heading or subheading.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it is review chain of custody laws, review firearms chain of custody laws. But they found basically that there was no, there wasn't really a violation when they looked at all of their evidence, at their evidence collection, not evidence collection, but once they brought the evidence to the police department, they really had, they didn't have any breaches. That evidence that came in was the evidence that came in and then wasn't missing. It wasn't like the marijuana was missing from the police locker. Okay. And I think that's what they were really talking about, but that's not clear, it seems to me, when you make a broad swipe that, the evidence procedures were good, So, yeah.
One of my overall, thoughts as I read through this is like, you guys know what the rules are. Why don't you follow them? Just maybe you should start following the rules, because they're talking about, initiating these programs that confirm people are following the rules. Not we need new rules. Let's follow the rules that we already have.
Right. And all. So, when they say final, it's kind of like it's in those little, it's in the section with professional standards and the use of cell phones, the dead body. This was got me, the dead bodies policy. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So they repeated a lot of things again. And that's really section 20, which is the recommendations and improvements. That's the final. Okay. That is
section 20.
Yeah, section 20, which is page.
It's coming up.
It comes to me as page 189 out of 206. It's not on the page.
Oh,
okay. Now it's 180. It's 189 on your PDF, but it's 184 in the report. Okay.
And 189 in my heart. Let's see. It's I'm looking at the subcategories. Here's section 19.
You're getting close.
Well, and then it stops. And then it stops. There's no more sections after this. This is a big section.
There's a section 20, recommended improvements, right? It talks about interrogating suspects, uniform approach to documentation, ongoing evaluation, separation of suspects during questioning. But first you have to declare them as a suspect. That's the problem, right? That's an issue. If you're going to say somebody's not a suspect, you're not going to separate them. But good police work means you separate everybody. You separate witnesses and suspects, right? You don't put them all together. This report doesn't address that. Evidence collection. They talk about the same things we talked about: digital cameras, photographed at the scene, unannounced audits, testifying. Okay, this is a good one. Section 1, Part D, testifying. Okay, this is under Section 20. It's page 184 on the report, page 190 if you do the PDF, because the PDF counts the front pages and all the pretty pictures and all. I kid you not. Officers should be trained to respond to questions professionally and accurately. Handling disagreements professionally. Officers should learn strategies to maintain composure and professionalism despite challenging questions. Let me just choke on that one. Identifying assumed truths. Training should include techniques for identifying and addressing assumed truths within questions. Well, wait a second. Aren't you there accusing the defense attorneys of putting a question that has false facts in front of you by saying that officers should identify assumed truths? Maybe that is the truth, not an assumed truth. Here you go.
That also sounds sort of like confirmation bias, Well, let's throw some assumed truths in there and then work to find that we got what we need to confirm those assumed truths.
That one got me so much I dropped the page on the floor. Officers, this is good. Exposure to high-profile cases. I love this one. Mock trials or role-playing exercises simulate the pressures of such trials and practice skill development. So they suggest that you do mock trials with officers to practice their skill development. Okay. Now, you know, in a lab protocol, in a forensic lab that has accreditation, supervisors come and watch their workers, their employees, the people that they supervise under them in both depositions and trials. You know that. In case you didn't know that, it's part of actually the accreditation procedures that they have to be looked at and watched and a number of times a year, and that's so that you can tell whether they're doing not only a good job, but they know how to relate the facts of what they're doing to the jury. It's nothing bad in there, but this sounds devious the way it's written to me. I mean, you know.
I'm looking. Now we're taking requests. I'm looking for Vahydro. Is that close? Vahydro 54. Look at page 56 to 58. Okay.
I haven't either. You and I are on different pages. I'm continuing.
There's domestic disputes.
Yeah, it's a continuous skill development, regular workshops and refresher courses focusing on best practices in courtroom testimony. Explore no-cost training opportunities within the prosecutor's office. Oh, that's good. All right. So what they're saying, well, to me, you know, I know this shouldn't be bad because yes, even officers and people come in, they don't know about a courtroom. They don't know necessarily how to testify, right? And some basic training, but you don't want to train them to testify falsely or to be professional testifiers, right? There's a whole thing about cops being test liars. You don't want to do that. You want to train them to tell the truth, and you don't want to train them to just assume that because you're being asked a question, the fact in the question is a false question. So there's a lot of that in here too. Okay, there's a lot of that in here.
Well, clearly there's a lot that needs to be looked at. I'm gonna have to take some time and actually go through it, so I'm not just jumping around.
Yeah. Now, yeah, they have the audit. They do have the audit of Sandra Birchmore, right? And they have the audit of John O'Keefe. And I think for tomorrow night's show, class, since you have this whole report out, we should look at the whole section on John O'Keefe and what this says, and the whole section on Sandra Birchmore. Now, the question I have, Michael, is you want, when we do that, because all of our viewers have not looked, they've looked at it generally, but you have to read it because they have a lot of pictures in both, they have a lot of pictures in all sections, right? Yes, the John O'Keefe section, by the way, starts on page, case file audit John O'Keefe. If you're doing it with a PDF, it comes up as 92, but if you're doing it on the report, it's page 87, okay? And it starts with, okay. So, and then they give you a sort of timeline, and for everybody watching at class, we should go through tomorrow and see what we think is true on this audit, and whether there's anything else that needs to be corrected, because they're taking pictures of the secondary search and the Nike shoe. I don't know if those were pictures that were in evidence or these are other pictures. And they're doing a lot with regard to that, okay? And then, of course, then they have a section on the case file audit and the death of Sandra Birchmore. That's at, if you do the PDF, it's at page 104. If you don't do the PDF, you know, it's just on the report itself, it's page 99, okay? Page 99. And we're going to have, that's a smaller audit. The recommendations there, by the way, were pursuant to Canton PD policies and procedures, officers should digitally photograph all crime scenes and sketch the scene. The audit team reviewed a Canton PD police report prepared by a detective who wrote that Sandra Birchmore died of a suicide. We recommend death investigative reports be reviewed by the Chief Investigations Division and approved prior to being finalized. As stated above, the Canton PD should remain involved in death investigations that occur within the town of Canton. Okay. Now, Chief Rafferty advised the audit team after February 6, 2021, Canton PD relinquished all investigative authority of the Sandra Birchmore death investigation to MSP and Norfolk District Attorney's Office. And then it kind of ends. Okay. We know there's a lot more to that story. And if you go to page, Michael, I don't know if you can get to it, page 97 of the report, page 102 on the PDF if you're scrolling down.
Let's see.
That's the recommendations dealing with John O'Keefe specifically, not the top ones, not the ones that they get to right off the bat that they think are the most important ones.
Okay, give me your 2 page numbers, and I'm not sure which one's appropriate here.
97 is the page number on the audit. And if you're using the page number that comes up on the PDF to the side, because it's going to include the front cover and all, it's 102.
Yeah, we can see all the PD photos here as we're going past this. There's a Mr. Brennan. Oh no, it's not Mr. Brennan. He looks a lot like him though. Let's see, some more crime scene and etc. Here, of course, is
that's I'm
just
I just went to the recommendations after all the pictures that are there.
I like pictures. Hey, look at forwards and backwards video footage.
The new policy, there has been corrective action, apparently. There's a new policy, policy 601. The new policy includes protocols, including handling crime scenes in inclement weather. The new policy and procedures regarding evidence collection and preservation are consistent with the standards, the law enforcement standards, and are best practices, okay? So apparently, there are new protocols of how you handle things in inclement weather. Wouldn't it be interesting to have an expert for the defense testify that in 2000, when this happened, 2022, that perhaps the best practices involved having protocols for inclement weather, and that this police department didn't have them? Wouldn't that have been an interesting thing that an expert could say?
Too bad there's not going to be one. So this is the taillight fragment section of the report here, talking about what the audit team learned, that at 5:45 p.m. the afternoon into the evening, after Officer John O'Keefe was found, they go back to the scene. Another search, second search. That's where they find all kinds of red plastic taillight pieces, and they show some by that fire hydrant right there, which I drove by, and we had video of when we were showing that little drive. That's about as far to the left, if you're looking at the front of the house, to the property as you can get before you're really at the next door neighbor's house. So, and again, approximately 45 pieces in total were discovered. Conditions at the scene of the search were less than ideal. Really? Significant snowfall had accumulated. They're saying 20 inches. And then they're saying as the snow melted, they found more and more and more. I just don't understand how, if one event creates the impact that causes all of these fragments, how come they're in different levels of the snow? Wouldn't they all be on the same level, even if encased with snow on top?
I don't know.
Unless they're moving. Are they moving?
Are they moving
during this buildup of the snow? That doesn't make sense to me.
Now they're going to blame it on the snow blower.
Yes. You mean the snow plow or the leaf blower?
The leaf blower.
Oh, that it blew the shards of plastic all over the place.
You're blaming it on the leaf blower, right? Yeah. That's what that's what you're going to be blaming it on now, the leaf blower.
Okay, so here's the observations findings I think you were referring to.
Right.
That they didn't have evidence collection kits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. The same. It's kind of the same thing that's above. I think it's actually more consistent, more concise, and better for the defense at the beginning of the report than at the bottom of the report. Although I do think that the beginning of the report doesn't mention that there was no crime scene protocol for inclement weather. But you know what? I don't care whether there was or not. Well, who uses a leaf blower and a red Solo cup to collect evidence?
It's not like this is the first storm they've ever seen. It may have been severe, but this was early on before it really, only 2-3 inches at the most had come down during this part of the process. Most of that 20 inches came afterwards. The highlighted one here, Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts, should have been interviewed. Doggone it, I didn't think of that. I never thought to interview people that were there. Damn it.
Gosh, jeez, wow.
Nicole and Brian Albert should have been interviewed.
Wow.
I can't think of everything.
Yeah, and too bad the defense can't have an expert to say that, in the best practices of what should have happened, even under the procedures that may have existed, whether they did or they didn't exist, that certain people should have been interviewed and should have been interviewed separately, even though here they only talk about suspects being separated. But we all know in this world that the best practices is that all witnesses get separated, so one memory doesn't affect another memory, right?
Yep, and you can avoid collusion.
And you can avoid that dirty word collusion,
Darn
which
it.
they always talk about when they talk about defense teams. Do I sound a little protective of defense teams? It's maybe because I've been a prosecutor and I thought I was a really fair and a good prosecutor and didn't do any of that. Okay. Valhydro 54 says, look at page 56 to 58 on evidence collection. Of course, is that on the report or is that when you're scrolling down the PDF and you get, you get different numbers? It's always fun when you go to read something and somebody has put in the scrolling PDF numbers versus the report numbers, and
Yeah,
all.
I have no idea why it would change. That's odd.
Because it accounts on a PDF, it counts the title page, the first page, and all, which may not be numbered. So it counts everything that's there. It doesn't count the page numbers, and the report may be numbered differently, starting after, like for instance, after the
after the pictures,
after
the graphics.
Yeah, after the graphics.
If there's any doubt about the legal requirements, it's essential to consult with the department's legal advisors to ensure the integrity of the investigation. You know what this sounds like to me? If you had, when you have to go through sexual harassment training, as most companies do now, they have those very boring, although important, training films. They all sound like that. They all sound just like one of that. If there's any doubt about the legal requirements, it is essential to consult with the department's legal advisors to ensure the integrity of the investigation.
But let's go back to the original question on this. This does have some important things for the defense, right? This does indicate that there's some screw ups, and I imagine that not only and you all from Canton can tell me that there may have been some issues about why we should do this when we're going to get, when this case is going on, because the defense is going to want to use it, and we're going to see this tomorrow. Now, you and I won't be on the air in the morning tomorrow. We were on like 5 hours today. You can go to our live, and rerun that. But I would bet that we're going to find this, and this is going to be something we're going to have to talk about tomorrow night when we have our show, because wow, we're going to try to start with the read and morph it right in very quickly into Birchmore. But some things are going to happen. Now, speaking about things that are happening, today we had a little incident while you were gone, where some troll, unidentified troll, identified with the name of J. Smith. Wow, I wonder how many of J. Smiths there are out there. No picture and just a J, so it could be a bot, it could be a troll. Decided to call me a 4-letter C word, but tried to get around our protocols here where we block people by using K. So we did post. Since Jay Smith decided to enter the chat, we did post it up. We did cut the segment, and we have put it on our @JusticeServed TV X account. Jay Smith, you want to show everybody how people that are against Justice Served TV talking about this case honestly, because we try to talk about this case honestly. And we have some things that people that are free Karen Read people don't like. We talked about it, all right, but they don't seem to be attacking us.
Well, that's what I've said. We welcome all these alternative viewpoints, but not just personal attacks. That's what you do when you got nothing else to work with.
Right.
When you have no evidence that supports your position, you just, throw out some nasty comments.
Yeah, so you can tweet that segment far and wide to show you how people
Did you give them what for?
AKR. It's there. It's there. Oh,
you gave them what for? All right.
We gave them a lot. Crystal Limited Edition, Canada 6.99. Could this audit be used by the defense to introduce some of the facts that Mike Easter would have testified to? Love you guys. Oh, thank you for watching. We love you too. We think that tomorrow we're going to wake up to a motion in limine from the prosecution, and we're going to make up a motion from the defense saying they want to use this report. I think we're going to have varying motions here, and the judge is not going to decide this tomorrow because she's got the jurors there, but she's going to put
she'll take it under advisement no matter what. Do you think that the prosecution got this report ahead of any public release?
Oh, interesting discussion. Well, let me see. I assume that the town got this report ahead of a public release, right? Who was the person that actually released it? All right. Now, who's on the town? Okay, the select board. All right.
Yeah, but I say that primarily because it would help them draft their motion in limine if they had this a little ahead of time.
Yeah. Although I'm sure that the audit firm, who seems to have taken this seriously, okay, and all. Yeah, I know. I am reading from my lap. I apologize. I didn't print out the page numbers when Michael was on the road. That's why we went back and tried to put this on the screen. And I was telling him what the page numbers were. I apologize to you all. We got so excited about what I was seeing, you know. Yeah, everything I read is actually in the report. Actually, one of the pages is now on the floor because I accidentally dropped them when I went to the PDF, the main PDF that I have right in front of me right now. And we did put the site that you can get the PDF from, and the site, is, well, gee, now that I think about it, take a look at Twitter, our Twitter account. The site really was from Canton, right? Well, it was from Canton. It wasn't from.
I don't think it'll be hard to find. No.
Yeah, and it's all over, and people were saying it's released, it's released, it's released. But Michael, why does this get released after? Think about this, right? Why were we in such a hurry then to deal with the Easter motion? The judge knew that this report is coming. Couldn't she have held that?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also the speculation this had something to do with why she was in such a rush to launch the trial today, April Fool's Day, rather than give the both defense and prosecution a little breathing room with some of the issues they've been fighting about. But she's been hard driving to this date, knowing that this audit was going to come out.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any connection there or not, but there's definitely been speculation about it. Here's a conclusion I like, and again, with the wide variety of pages, this one is on page 98 somewhere. The audit team found no evidence supporting claims that any Canton PD officers tampered with evidence located at the 34 Fairview crime scene. I would like to see that supported elsewhere, and maybe it is.
Right.
I'll have to look for it, but that's a pretty bold statement.
Right. That's why this report giveth with one hand and taketh with another. So it'd be really interesting if indeed the Commonwealth says, oh, but we want to use that, right? We want to use that section of the report. Just we don't want the other section that said that the scene was handled badly. All right. We'll have to see how this plays out. This is going to be very interesting. And by tomorrow, we will have read the John O'Keefe section in greater detail. I just thought for the defense, that's a first good beginning. But I also thought that beginning, if and to answer your question directly, Chris, a limited edition, we think that this report's not going to be able to be used unless it could be used somehow in some type of impeachment for cross-examination. Okay, but that the judge is not going to allow the defense to bring in the makers of this report and put them on the stand and go through it. He just not, and that's what I believe. No,
I think you're right. There's a lot of issues, foundational, hearsay. Yeah, there's a lot of issues.
Right. And then I can hear Hank Brennan saying, and the defense doesn't want the fact that this report concluded that there was no evidence tampering, right? I'm sure they don't want that.
Yeah.
But he's going to want that in.
Alan Jackson says, do it.
Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. So we do have the report posted on our Twitter page, our X page, our Twitter page. Okay.
Take a look at it. Everybody take a look at it. And then tomorrow night we'll have more succinct review and hit some of the high points here without having to be so scatological. So I think that'll be good. And then tomorrow night we're also doing the Birchmore thing, right?
Right. We're going to be doing a deep dive into Birchmore. We're going to have on, hold on a second. I'm looking at some of this. Somebody wants to arrest you because you walked 5 times, right? Oh my goodness gracious.
Good thing it wasn't 6. Apparently that's the point at which somebody will be arrested out there. I have no doubt about it. Somebody will be. And to be honest, to challenge the authority that they have to not just establish that buffer zone, but to do any sort of enforcement, you need somebody to be arrested.
Right.
You got to have somebody that has standing to challenge it, and just being annoyed by it really isn't standing.
Right. Yes, we did post, so since this about 3 hours ago, we posted the link to this report from 5S Intelligence. That's their handle on X Twitter. the recommendations, and obviously it's a town of Canton report. So, when I think about, Michael, though, it is a government report. Aren't government reports allowed into evidence?
Again, they're going to be subject to the same foundational requirements that anything might be, in terms of preparation, in terms of observations. You can't just say, here's this 200-page report, enjoy, jury.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, the question is, is there going to be a cover your, the O'Keefe section, when we take that deep dive, is there going to be a cover your tushy in that report that they didn't do anything wrong with the evidence? Carrie B said the audit said a social media person contacted officer's wife. It was Proctor and MSP. How does that show up in a CPD audit? I knew Proctor was involved somehow. Contacted officer's wife. How does that show up in a CPD audit? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe that's complaining that officers were subject to being attacked in social media. Is that the parameters of what it was saying? Because remember, she did complain. She went on, defend her husband, did complain that there was social media was going after the family. It had been a terrible, terrible time. And going after anybody really is not a great thing. When you go after, we don't want the keyboarders to be social media warrior keyboarders. We want people to talk about actual evidence and facts and discuss actual evidence and facts. But it gets into the report because what's happening? Well, what's happening. Okay. So. Okay.
So I had never heard of this Five Stones Intelligence, and apparently I knew they were from Florida. They're a Miami, Florida company, but they've been hired by the U.S. Justice Department on a number of different asset forfeiture investigations, apparently.
Which this is such a asset forfeiture really, but asset forfeiture traces to see whether there's been misconduct. Maybe that's
it's not really a procedure type analysis.
Right. Procedure analysis is a whole different thing. You all watch crime shows. You all know procedurals. We may have. I'm going to try to reach out to two people who are cops that know a lot about procedures. I don't know if Cheryl McCullum has the time to come on our show. I was on her podcast last week. And there's somebody else who contacted me today that I've known for a while, and he's involved with really ridiculing how the procedures went with the Gilgo Beach case, the Rex Heuermann case. So maybe we'll try to get somebody independent of us to come in to take a look at this audit. But the audit doesn't necessarily help the police department. I mean, there's some really serious things that are lacking. The question is, does it give the police department a leg up now with media to say, oh, see, we didn't do anything wrong in terms of evidence collection or evidence. We didn't tamper with evidence. And I'm sure that's what we're going to hear tomorrow.
Well, we'll find out. I think we should reconvene at that point after we've had a chance to better digest this mess and then see what it's going to do to the current case, which will trundle along. I guess from reports we've seen at the end of the day, they got 2 jurors. Is that what you read?
That's what I read.
They got 2 people in the box. So
and the judge is allowing identifying characteristics of gender and race. Yeah,
which is fine. I'm okay with that. And I'm sorry, but I would throw in age as well. Sorry, it's always a broad, hey bud. Whenever it's age is thrown in there, it's always tough to tell.
Oh, Domino has entered the chat.
Just have a little nap. Come on, hop up.
Yeah, one male, one female. So yes, we did see that. So actually, that's pretty good. I think they had 2 jurors. So that answered my question.
That is. I was impressed. That was pretty good.
Yeah, they're not going to go through the veneer and get a whole group and then start selecting. They're going to go through. Going to start their selection once they have gone through and have a small veneer panel to choose from and go from there. That's
so in theory, this is optimal. If you need 20, including alts, I'm no math major, but 2 into 20 is 10 days of jury selection. So, gives you a ballpark idea. I'm guessing it's going to be more like 3, but still.
Yeah, but it does give you a ballpark idea. And things are going to happen when you get to, you have, I know she said full days, but you have Passover, I think this Friday, right?
I don't know. Is it this Friday or is it
Next Friday. I don't remember.
I think it's next
any.
Friday. It's the
Okay.
Friday before Good Friday.
Okay, and good, have Good Friday, the following Friday, and for many people who are religious, those are very important days, and they're not going to necessarily want to stay a whole day in jury selection.
Yeah, or maybe not at all. Who knows what's going to happen?
Or maybe not at all.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
that's where we are. So we will read closer the two sections. We will try to start with an update tomorrow on read. Hopefully it won't take too long at 6 p.m. And then we're going to go right into Birchmore. We will have our special guest, Mizzy, on. As I said, we will be asking the medical examiner to come on. We've also extended an invitation. We're going to extend an invitation to the reporter who broke the story. We don't know if she'll come on TV or just to serve TV. We'll see what happens there. And we'll have a lot of thoughts on that. And, also Tom's CPU will be on tomorrow night.
Yeah, we kind of pushed him off from today just because it got a little crazy with everything else going on.
Right.
And so we'll be better prepared to talk about this document. It was just so late in the day. I apologize for not getting a little more better handle on it for you.
Yeah.
But
but I try to just get a handle on the top parts and the issue of will it be able to be used by either side. So that's what I thought, because that's what we're going to see tomorrow. We're seeing that tomorrow one way or another, as they say.
All right.
So
okay, then. Good work today, partner. What? Yes.
Mizzy, check her out. Oh, there. Check her out. Yes, check Mizzy out. On her X account. Yeah, absolutely. But before you go, I have to make the pitch. You have to please, if you have liked the show, and Michael Bryant's been in Canton for 2 days, you saw a lot of information, a lot of interesting interviews. You're going to see a lot more tomorrow night, I promise you. Please hit that like button, or even the dislike button if you don't like us. Either one gets us into the algorithm. I prefer the like button if you're here. I guess if Jay Smith is here, Jay Smith may hit the dislike button. So hit that. Hit the subscribe button. Amazingly, 300 of you were added today. Added yourselves as subscribers. It doesn't cost anything to be a subscriber. If you want to be a member, that's a different cost. Hit the share button. I haven't shared this morning's show. We were on for 5 hours today, going through a lot of different things, which some of you, maybe if you're out in the West Coast, can take a look at. I'll share it again on my X page. And then also hit the notify all button. But hit that like button before we go.
All right. So try to do the right thing. We'll see you at some point tomorrow, 6 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock.
All right. We'll see you then.